Hey, everybody, welcome to the 12-Cent Treehouse, the home of the almost obscure references. As always, I'm Sean McLaughlin, writer producer. If you're interested in what I'm doing now, check out twinight.com. And with me are the lovely and talented Jeff Jones and Scott Collins. Fellas, introduce yourselves.
I'm Jeff. That's Scott. I've been very sick, so Scott came over here instead of us doing it in our separate houses to make sure that I was still alive. So I'll be doing that.
Are you CPR certified, Scott?
It's calling certification.
You know what's funny? Didn't they change CPR from when we learned it as kids?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not
Well,
supposed to hit them repeatedly in the chest. Is that
No,
not the thing
no.
anymore?
No, well, just for fun.
Yeah.
It's always when somebody's really ill, it's always a good laugh to just smack them a couple of times.
Right. Because I remember it's the 1, 2, like you do 12 and then breathe, 12 and then
Right.
breathe. But it's different now, right?
Right now it's ha 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 ha, staying alive.
For
They
real,
literally
that's
tell
the
you
way-
to use they literally tell you to use the beat from that song.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean that is funny and makes sense.
Well, and it's easy to remember staying alive when you're trying to
It's also
keep
it's
someone
encouraging.
alive.
Yeah.
Come along.
No.
Come on.
No,
You can
my
dance
understanding-
after this.
Get up, yeah. Do you not do the breath anymore in between beats?
Depends on who.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depends if you like them or not. If they're cute,
If it's you guys, yeah. If it's a stranger,
I understand.
no, my
There's always
saliva-
been,
Yeah, my bodily fluids are precious.
and there's always been an unspoken croissant. All right, so we're here to talk about endings this time. We talked about
Part 3
beginnings.
of our 3-part series on what makes a good story, which
Yeah.
we didn't intend to be a 3-part series, but we're loose, we go with it, we flow.
And also, I think we can always add part 1, section B, subsection A.
And we might have to have a repeat of this portion anyway to
Yeah.
finish the story, whatever.
Exactly.
We are one man short.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Well,
lovely and talented Steve Jones is not with us today, but we'll be back soon.
I do think it's interesting because storytelling it seems like it should be a straight line, but it never is. Like getting to the end of the story, I think when you get to the end of the story, it seems like all those dominoes had to happen in a row, but it never works that way out when you're telling that story, or even when you're in the middle of a story. It should seem inevitable, I think, at the end, but it
Right.
always meanders when you're making it. Like,
Yeah.
especially when you think you have a good idea and you don't, you have to throw a whole section out.
And you go off on all those little side trips that you eventually wind up having to cut out because they just take up space and they don't really help anything. Yeah, the quote, the cliche about a good ending is that it has to seem inevitable yet surprising.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that takes what's funny about that is it takes a shit ton of planning.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's to me, that's often the hardest part of working on the story and everything else, especially if you did start from the beginning and you got like this great entrance, or the initial confrontation or whatever it's going to be, but how it's resolved and how it changes things or adds things or whatever else going on. That's always the hardest part, because any of the great stories that are out there that are even fan favorite of comics or whatnot, Watchmen, anything else, you can always argue over the endings. There are pieces of the endings that this person didn't like or that person didn't like, even though they may have loved all the rest of it all the way through.
Right.
It's those endings that are so crucial.
So what would you say, what do you think is your favorite ending in any media? Like your favorite movie ending or your favorite book ending?
I got mine.
Oh yeah? What's yours?
The Carpenter Halloween 1978. That he's shot and knocked out. Michael Myers is on the floor and everything else going on. And for the most part, it's been played straight. Everything has been normal, super humanish, whatever. Nothing crazy, really too much going on. Most of it explainable, not a boogeyman, even though they keep mentioning the boogeyman, which is great setup. And then there's the ending that Pleasance had already shot him. He fell off of a rooftop, and they go back to look for him, and the body's gone.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
you're spending like another at least 20 seconds, 30 seconds throughout the film where they're showing different portions of where we've been before in the story going, where is he? We don't see him anywhere. And there's that even that almost, Darth Vader mask talk, the breathing thing that's going on kind of deal. It's like, that's the best ending in the world.
Yeah.
I like the end of Citizen Kane, which, if I remember correctly, is close to the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where
Oh yeah. I mean, I was gonna say Raiders.
You pull back.
yeah, you pull well, they go in and they find out. I mean, the with Citizen Kane, they plant Rosebud at the beginning,
Right.
and you don't know what it is, and at the end, you find out when you're going through all his belongings that it's the sled that's about to be thrown into the incinerator.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
kind of like the ending of Raiders, where it's just going to be lost. It's just going to be put away someplace, and the people in the story will never know really the ending, but we will.
Yep.
One of the things I love about that ending of Raiders is like, not only is it a huge warehouse, and he's just putting the ark in there, but it's a huge warehouse. What other kinds of crazy shit is in there that's just been found and forgotten that top men are not actually looking at? It's just in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, what other shit have they got in there?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really like about it, because it's giving you an image of a larger world, without going and having to show you the larger world. It's actually showing you a smaller spot of it, but you get the idea that this is a huge world full of all kinds of magical things that
Right.
we sort of ignore and we step away from. And the same thing with the end of Kane, because you get the idea that this guy's life was huge, bigger than life, but at the end, none of it mattered, because there was a bigger world out there. He's not just the whole thing that handles it. And if you see through that, you can kind of see them all building towards that, like we were talking about, surprising and inevitable. The whole way. I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted. I thought of something, a good image to put up to talk about plot.
Oh, sure.
I'm downloading it and putting it in.
Cool.
What's yours, just Jeff?
Well, I definitely the Raiders of the Lost Ark, that image, that final thing to me. But one of the things, but even before that final ending, the denouement of like her and him being happy together, right? Like having survived the adventure, having survived the Nazis, and then like the future does look bright for them. I always prefer. I know some people like a negative downer, realistic ending, but I always kind of like leaving. Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put that up right away, but
No, that's cool.
I apologize.
Well, I like an ending that leaves me feeling good when I step out of the theater or put the book down, right? Like, I always like the, I like to feel better after I finish a story than feel worse.
You like it all wrapped up and happy.
I do like a happy ending.
But no, we're only talking about movie endings, kind of in this context we've been bringing up. There's all sorts of different endings when you're talking about comic books and stuff. I mean, comics were notorious, like the old serials and stuff, that it was a to be continued ending.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are
once
fun.
Once Marvel came in, the thing was the story's never ending. The story is completely intertwined with all these different heroes, and even if this part of it ends, you're setting up the next thing.
Right.
Yep.
And bringing in other characters. So do you like that or not? I do. Answer the question.
Oh yeah. So I mean, one of my favorite comic book endings is the Spider-Man 2-part by John Romita Jr. I forget who wrote it. Where he fights Juggernaut and
that's Stern.
Is that Stern?
I think so.
Yeah. Do you remember that one where he fights Juggernaut and then so in the end, he wins by tricking Juggernaut into stepping into concrete and having it sink down. So he hasn't killed Juggernaut or really even defeated him. He's just delayed him and stopped him from being on a rampage.
Yep.
So for Peter, that's a huge win. And then I think, does Madam Web die in that episode? Or issue? I can't remember. So it's bittersweet, but even though he's jacked up, he won, he survived. He overcame the the villain. And I always liked that sense of like, oh, that he did it. That was a tough road, but like
Yeah,
we made it. I always liked that sense of hope.
we
That
survived the tiger.
yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Slot's ending of the story that led into Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock takes over Peter's body
Mm.
and realizes how strong Peter is, and realizes that Peter could have killed him at any time and hasn't.
Oh,
And then
that's great.
Ock decides to reform.
Oh, because Peter had actually been a hero the whole time and not just
Yeah.
taking
Yeah,
him out.
Peter could have killed him at any time and didn't.
Yeah.
And so Doc Ock decides that he has to honor Peter's life, and honor it by becoming a better Spider-Man than Peter ever was. Because it's such a great mixture of all those different stories, of Peter's story, of Ock's story, and
Right.
yet Ock is still going to be an asshole about it. He's going to become a good guy, but he's going to become a jerk because he has to be a better Spider-Man than Peter was.
So the ending, do you think, is a culmination of consequences, or is it like a reset or an answering of a question?
The character has found something that they need, whether they knew they needed it or not.
Right.
To me, I always start with character, and the character is the most important thing. I'm not real big on mechanical plots,
Mhm.
Just fixing the situation. But the character has found something new, or found something that they need, and can move on from there. To me, that's a great ending.
Yep.
Right. Like they've learned how to deal. So instead of like Jason finding the Golden Fleece and getting it back to the city, that's a mechanical ending, as opposed to Jason learning something about himself that allows him to move on as a human.
Right.
Unless he was wrapped up in the city, unless like his identity was either against the city or for the city, and then him doing that change to the city somehow validates him or does something else. But then it would still be about him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I like the end of the Odyssey and that Ray Fiennes movie that came out last year, The Return.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Because it's about him proving that he's the biggest badass of all time, but he's doing it because he's in love with his wife and he has to get back to her. That's the most important thing to him, and that's why he's the biggest badass of all time, because that matters to him.
Right. Yeah. I like that one. That was good. Ray got into crazy shape for that film. Talk about old man strength.
He talks about, he did all these great reviews about, I wanted to look ropey. I told the trainer I think he should have a ropey look where he's very strong. And they talked about leaving the set every day and seeing Rafe out running hills. I needed to stay ropey.
Fucking actors.
To go acting for a second, the great thing about that is he did that back to back with Conclave, where he played a completely character who's all lives in his head. So it was an amazing year for him. But the ending of Conclave is great too, because it's all this. I don't know if you've seen it or read the book, but
I haven't seen that one.
It's all about these guys deciding who's going to be the next pope, and all the political stuff that goes on, and the people who get shoved aside, and the secrets that are laid out. And at the end, it's a story about faith, because we're going to elect the proper person.
Right.
We have all these problems, but we're going to, which is really amusing considering what happened the past year.
Right. Yeah. So how do you plan for an ending? As do you have an ending in mind when you start a story, a character's journey, or do you let the ending come up with the character? Like how, because you've written so much and you've taught it, and you understand not only the mechanics but the emotional journey. I remember you and I once talked about, like, I've been trying to do the math of storytelling for so long, and I sent you my breakdown of like this 3-act structure and into a 6 comic book story arc, and I feel like I've hit all the mechanical beats, but the thing that was 100% missing was any sort of emotional involvement. Right? It was just, this happens, that happens, but never like how the character felt about it or why they're doing it. I think you're really good at that, about catching like this character's motivation makes sense, and we feel what they're feeling. So like, how do you plan an ending for that kind of arc?
It depends. It depends on the story. Like um, the Accidental PI, one of the things we're working on. I had the idea of the beginning, but I literally had no idea who done it. It's a mystery. I literally
Mm,
had no idea who done it when I started, and I
right.
figured it out as I went along. Um, with Pests, I kind of knew how it was going to end, and then with like plotting Aquaman, um, there was no ending. There was no clear ending. There were arcs that ended, and I knew how the arcs were going to end because they were going to lead me into my next story.
Right.
But I think that's the difference between comics and to a certain extent television than novels or movies or plays or anything like that.
So for the comic book one that would continue on, but it would just end the arc, what was it usually to your mind that was important about the ending of that arc? Was it just the defeating of the villain, or was it some sort of resolution with the character, or combination?
No,
Is that what's
with
this?
with Aquaman, I started at a point. So they gave me the
Oh,
character, um, and I had the idea at that time was that I had to stick with everything that had been written before was absolute canon, and you could
right.
not mess with that. So
Sure.
when I got the character, he had given up Atlantis. His son had died. His wife had left him. Justice League Detroit had fallen apart, and
Mm,
he's just so like I'm like, well, where is he now? Well, he's just sort of floating in the ocean, trying to find his thing. The first issue, Atlantis is attacked by a surface country, and he goes back to defend them, and in that discovers that he doesn't want to be king anymore. But he wants to protect these people, and he wants to serve in some way. So it was all step by step him coming out of his depression and his trauma and trying to find his new place in the world. And his
mhm.
new place in the world, at least as I saw it, was he's half human, half Atlantean, and as opposed to Namor, who just went all Atlantean, he's gonna by the end of the first year, he's gonna figure out I need to balance these two things because that's who I am. I
Right.
can't I can't just be
Mm,
one or the other. So, knew I wanted to get there, and in getting there, I did a story about Atlantis being attacked. I did a story about his powers not working the way he thought they did. If sharks go into a feeding frenzy, they're not going to listen to him.
mhm.
So he has to find something else to do. I did a story about the water literally attacking him. Um, Somebody had invented a bacteria that was supposed to eat oil spills, and instead it just sucked up all the oxygen out of the water. So
Oh,
he can't breathe anymore. So he's literally not at home in his own environment anymore.
right.
And then I made him the ambassador of the UN, and he had to deal with all that stuff. And he had to live part time in New York, and he had to figure out other things to do. So each thing was a step on him finding out who he is now. And at the same time, we're discovering who this guy, when I was a kid, Aquaman was one of the big guys and had the Aqua Cave and all this Batman stuff. And like, who am I going to be without that?
Right.
You didn't know about the Aqua Cave?
I did not know
I
about
did not
the
know about the
Aqua
Aqua Cave.
I knew about the
Cave,
Green Arrow car.
yeah, the
Oh,
Arrow
yeah.
car and there was an
Yeah.
Arrow Cave too, and an aeroplane.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Oh my God. So
I
would you?
shouldn't have been surprised by
No. Hey, listen, if it were, I mean, the same company that put gorillas on everything because it's sold.
hell yeah, baby.
So now, so each one of those seems like a problem to be solved, a theme to be explored, but you still have to have action. You still have to have some sort of like physical conflict, right?
Right.
Like, how would you, so then would you try and find a metaphor for a villain metaphor that you could put into the conflict role, or would you make one up? Like, how
Yes,
did you handle the visual representation of those struggles?
I wasn't consciously looking for that, but I did when I look back on it now, even with the tremendous rewrites that happened on the stuff I wrote.
Mm,
Um, that's what I was doing. It was surface land is attacking sea land, and he comes in between them.
mhm.
The sea begins to attack Sea City. He comes in between them.
Right.
He's the middle of the road guy who has to be the middle of the road guy because that's literally how he's born.
Right.
So
he has to solve that conflict between these two elements of himself over and over again.
right, right, right. And if we'd gone on, I had lots of stuff in store to do that. I had his half brother, in the original canon, Orm is a surface person. His half is his father's son who wants to rule Atlantis. So I had Orm had an operation so he could live underwater, and was trying to take over Atlantis just to fuck with him, because I wanted to have a supervillain who realized every time I go directly up against this guy, I get my ass kicked. I'm in the hospital for 3 weeks. So
Right.
I'm going to try and outsmart him and not have a physical conflict this time.
Right. Yeah, that's
but,
it's funny to me because, like, when you think of a comic, you brought up a really great point. Like, the endings are not really endings.
right.
They're endings of a chapter that set up the next story arc. And so that seems like dealing with an ending that isn't really an ending must almost be frustrating.
Doesn't it seem like sometimes you wish a character could just be rested for a while? Like, you could just have this story, and then like, and I know everybody at DC's head will explode if I said, maybe we've got enough Batman. Maybe we should let Batman sit for a while.
Right.
Well, I mean, but similar to that, I remember there were stories back in the day when we were reading, and I think it comes around at different times, but that even the readership was aware of it. I remember reading the fan mail at the time, where like the X-Men had just gone through Savage Land and they've been defeated by Magneto and this and that's going on, and the two teams this and that, and then the main group make it back to the X-Men mansion, in dealing with all that stuff, and even the readers were just like, "Oh my God, just give them an issue in the mansion just to relax for a minute, would you please?"
You know what's funny about that is that's always the issue I drew. I remember I got a gig doing an X-Men issue, and I was super excited about it. But it was it was a New Year's issue. They had just survived a major battle with a huge villain, and it was a gigantic storyline. And then it was just them re-wallpapering the mansion. And so I had to try and figure out how to make that interesting. But I'm
so
like,
what was the conflict in it?
The conflict in it is
beige or darker beige.
Yeah. Is it what was the conflict? There wasn't really. There was some subplot stuff that was going on about, like, where are these mutants going? They're disappearing. And then there was the actual action was Magneto was reforming, and some people didn't believe he was really reformed, so we had a little scuffle. But other than that, like, the opening splash page of the X-Men issue that I drew is Wolverine slicing some wallpaper with his claw and Storm using a little cloud to wet the wall, while Beast and everyone put the wallpaper up, and they talk about their New Year's resolutions.
And
You think
an issue of Homes
Charles-
and Gardens.
Yeah, and then Ty Harding showed up. And,
Oh my God.
Move that bus.
Ugh.
You think that Charles could afford a contractor, wouldn't you?
You think you think that wallpaper would not be in a mansion? It's like,
That too.
this is cheap ass wallpaper.
Kind
Oh.
of low rent, huh?
It's not the 70s, for Christ's sake. Yeah.
So talk about X-Men as a good example, because X-Men ended. You remember, like, it went into a reprint book. So there were no X-Men new X-Men stories for a while.
Did they
And
plan
then
the
all
ending?
Of a sudden, Giant Size one came out. There
Oh,
wasn't.
right, yeah.
The only one that I can remember a real solid ending for was Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol ended with the Doom Patrol sacrificing themselves to save 17 people on an island.
Right.
And
Oh.
no one ever heard about it. They died completely unrecognized, and that was the end of it until they had to bring them back.
Yeah,
I wonder if that was more like Arnold Drake's stamp on the whole thing going, he just wasn't, I don't think he was happy about the whole situation or any of that stuff at the time.
Right.
So he's like, oh, we have to end the book? Fine. Everybody died.
Everyone's dead.
Yeah, and I kind of applaud him for that, because I going back and reading those again, I think Drake was a much better writer than people gave him credit for. He used all that weird 60s fake teen slang in it, and he was a big part of the go-go check period. But the
Yep.
characters were a little deeper, and the stories in Doom Patrol were actually a lot more leveled than anything else DC was doing, which is probably why they canceled the book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one thing to has I know Superman's died, but none of us thought that was a real ending.
Oh, the
Right.
people did.
Well, the people,
The general readership or other people out there, when they heard about that stuff on the news, they thought that was so real.
they were pissed.
I would be heading to New York City at the time on the train, and somebody would find out they'd say I have comics or whatever, and they'd bring it up. They'd always want to bring up Superman at that time, going, "Can you believe they killed him?"
Right.
And I just give them a look like, "Really?
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a bridge I want to sell you. Come on."
Yeah. So, I mean, in comics, you can't really, I don't know if you really can have like a series ending, unless it's like a mini series that is going to end. But like if the character's still alive, they still exist, their story is not really over.
The only thing you can kind of have in comics, but yeah, it's either the end of the series or if you finish a major arc, then there can be almost that feeling of a complete
Right.
resolution
Right.
before you get to the next
Right.
issue. But most comics are built on the idea that you at least want an epilogue or something else, that's some sort of teaser to buy, to get you to
Right.
buy the next issue to come
Right.
back.
Would it work any better if you ended an Iron Man arc and then didn't put out any Iron Man comics for a while until somebody came up with a really good Iron Man idea? Because we were talking about mysteries before we got on, and
Right.
Nero Wolf books came out once a year, and he was a fast writer.
Right.
So you didn't have to have something every month. What if you just had a new Iron Man series, 6 issues every year or so? Would that work in comics, do you think? Or is it still
I
too
do think
driven
that
by the
that
monthly?
model, yeah, I do think that model will work better now than it did when we were kids and you expected a monthly comic. But I mean, like one of my favorite miniseries is the Spider-Man Craven,
Yeah.
that series was Mike Zeck. And that has a good solid ending. I mean, Peter, his character's changed. He's like his relationship with Mary Jane is different. Like Craven's different. Like,
It felt like the whole tone of Spider-Man had changed because of that story.
yeah, I do
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think that ending had serious consequences and was, as a reader, super satisfying. Like none of the people I loved were dead, so I knew that they were still around.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it felt like that journey had meant something.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
one of the things I hate, like,
I mean, Craven died.
yeah,
So it's like that's an important member of the cast or whatnot. So that was the beginning of that those things could happen
yeah,
in a modern age of Spider-Man stuff. Most of them, we're talking about us being younger readers, that we weren't around when Gwen died.
right.
So in between Gwen and this time, there hadn't been a whole lot of that.
And Gwen,
That I remember.
Gwen stayed dead.
Does Sean remember?
Yeah,
Yeah. It was a big deal. It was shocking because
Yeah.
you didn't. I mean, I was a kid. I don't know how old I was, but I remember I had just been following Spider-Man for maybe a year at that time, and they killed her, and it was to a little kid, it was emotional punch.
yeah,
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I really, like I talked about before in ad nauseum, is that I really liked Peter Parker's pals and gals as much as I liked the action stories. So now you've killed that, and Peter's upset, and there's that page I sent you guys a couple weeks ago with Mary Jane trying to figure out what to do. Like
Right.
that felt real to me.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
that was a death that mattered. I mean, for a long time, the only deaths in comics that mattered were Bucky and Gwen Stacy.
right.
Yep.
Well, I think that, like, at what
Mm.
point do you think that they stopped? Because I remember as a kid, I never felt like I was being written down to with comics. But I always, like, it doesn't, I don't know if, like, at some point, I don't know, did comics stop taking themselves as seriously? Or maybe they started taking themselves too, like, I don't know. I feel like,
The story content was generally pushed aside during all of those
Yeah.
formative years we're talking about. The story content was always the apex of the pyramid
Yeah.
of the decision making.
all right,
It wasn't the toys, it wasn't t-shirts, it wasn't movies,
Right.
it wasn't TV.
Right.
But by the 80s or whatnot, into the 90s, money started flowing in different directions more.
right,
So then those became the deciding factors for doing stories. So yeah, any characters that we had killed, most of them got brought back.
right. Like
Yeah.
Elektra. Elektra's death was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
That,
And it meant something
Frank,
to him, and it meant something in the story.
Yeah, and
Electra, Phoenix, we had
Yeah.
a bunch of them.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's Phoenix should have stayed. I mean, obviously you can't have her stay dead, but like that was powerful.
Jason Todd.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Did
that
he
wasn't
stay- did he
powerful,
stay
but
dead?
it was
No, he's back.
no,
he's
he's
Red
back.
Hood.
He's
Oh,
Red
right.
Hood, yeah.
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 There's now like 50 people that have keys to the Batcave and go and hang out there and have snacks.
Yeah. I remember I did a montage, but a scene in the Batcave in the Justice League thing that I did a long time ago, and I thought it was really cool that so Bruce and Clark are having a conversation in the Batcave, and they're walking around the Batcave doing that thing that you do is you have them, even though they're
Right.
having a boring conversation, you have them going somewhere. So I had them walking by all these Batman costumes in the background. And I put the original TV show Batman, a movie Batman, an armor Batman, like a joke Batman one. So I just had some funny Batman ones in
Right.
the background there. And I thought like, oh, this is interesting. These are fun Easter eggs for people. And then
And what could be a mild or even boring sequence? You put some sort of
I put
at
some
least
stuff-
an in joke or
Visual
something
interest
in
in there, yeah.
yeah, this is way off topic. this is more ending of my career than anything, than ending a story.
there.
So I did.
Oh, we've all had those.
Right. So I did that, and I thought I was super clever. I actually got a note from the lawyers at DC that I had to change all those Batman armors to other armors that weren't specific historical armors because they're like, we don't have the rights to put those in the comic. And I'm like, I understand. You're DC. you're
You own
Wolves.
the
your
character. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your character. But there were different shows, different eras, different things. They're like, nope, we don't have the rights to do that. And I thought, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is off topic, but God, that was dumb.
I had a whole subplot for I think issue 2, 3, maybe 4 of Aquaman, where he had to go find Storm, his seahorse,
Uh-huh.
again, and the seahorse was hanging out with Tusky the walrus from the cartoon show, and like he's like, I need the seahorse. Tusky, maybe you go find some herring someplace because I don't need you right now. And
Right.
I got a note from the lawyers going, we don't own those. And I'm like, how do you not own those?
It's
They were
weird,
in
right?
the cartoon. They've been used before. Like how are these not in there? No,
Right.
you can use Topo the octopus.
Why would they own that one? why did they spend money on that one and not the other ones?
So he came from the comic books first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. And it turns out that they didn't know, and a lot of times this happens with attorneys. I found out when I was doing the show, they don't know what the rights are, but they don't want to bother getting too
Yep.
involved with it.
So better safe than sorry.
Right.
Or
right.
better to not work than work.
right.
It's-
Why
it's-
bother to
it's
do
still-
your job? Just say no, you can't do that.
They still get paid
Yeah.
the same amount per hour to say no.
Yep.
Yep.
They didn't look something up.
$350 an hour to write no, or go search some copyright stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Good times. Good times. So one of the things I think is interesting is like as a more of a visual storyteller than an emotional one, like as a like I get an image in my mind. I have I have a story it's a space opera adventure thing, and I have this final image in where there's the ship, like the giant spaceship crash lands and the guy turns into this magical beast and and then everyone and it's, so I have the whole ending in my head and I have the beginning. And so the trouble I always have is connecting those dots to make the beginning images that I have and little bits and pieces throughout the middle. And then the ending that I have, which I'm like, oh, this has weight. It has all this weight to it, but I don't know how to get there. Like it's in a maze and it's in somewhere in the center and it's great, but I don't know how to get there. Do you ever have that problem? Like, how do you solve that problem of getting to where you want to be, but not knowing how to get there?
Yeah, can I put you okay if I put the image up again?
Of course.
I don't want to remove it. How do I share it from here?
There you go.
There you go. So this is we'll
There
try
we
and
go.
keep it up this time. Sid Field is a guy who wrote a book called Screenplay, and it was years ago. It was the main book on how to write a screenplay before McKee, before anything. And this was the thing for me, which really, I really finally understood what a plot was from this graph. So the thing to think about is that every one of these should have an arrow going left to right. And everything that happens in here needs to push this forward to the end.
Right.
And in the middle point, you're at a point where you cannot return to the status quo of the beginning. Whatever happens here means that they're committed and they can't go back anymore.
There's no fixing it in a way.
Right. Well, there's fixing it, but that they have to go forward. They can't just ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
So what I think about when you get to an exciting incident, which is to your point about what happens, is what does the character want? What does the character need? Need is your big story. Want is that scene. And they always work. So what does your character, after you have your main thing happen, what does the character want at that
and so
moment?
just follow that question until you get to the end. Okay.
And then it should,
Yeah.
the conflict, you set up the conflict and then it should build from there. And then you can take other plot lines, subplots, and drop them right below this. And they're all a little bit smaller because they're all feeding this major one. So you can have as many subplots as you want, as long as it doesn't become confusing. But to me, from character, and this isn't the be all and end all, I'm just saying the way I do it, is that it's like an actor. What does the character want? What does the character need? And how are they going to get it? And what's standing in their way at any given moment?
Well, that's the thing, though, is that often the wants cannot be the direct line to the need that's what going on in the end, like Toy Story. The cowboy constantly wants to get rid of the Buzz Lightyear whatnot and thinks that that's going to be the solution to the whole thing. But that's not actually the solution, and not the better solution. Whatnot going on is to accept the Buzz Lightyear into the clan and, and all be a happy family, whatnot together. So those wants can be those middle steps that you're looking for in the middle, where it's like you're actually trying to get to, Z at the end, but L and, G, L and Q lead us off to the left-hand side till they realize that's not going to work. Those wants, like in Toy Story, every time Woody does those different things, it always fails. Every time he tries to get rid of Buzz, it leads to the complications and it getting worse until Woody is like confronted with the idea of like, oh, I have to work with Buzz to get out of here and be a family again. Right. So to me, that's what that middle part is. You want to get to Z, but what often will do it is Z is what you need, not what the character wants or what they think they want.
Right.
I like the idea that your want, what your character wants might actually be in opposition to what your character needs. That sounds like a really interesting way to even approach it. Like those things might be in opposition. So the person in opposition might be himself.
Right. So the thing, there are two things from junior high school I ask everyone to remember. The one is that that paradigm I just put up is the same as the bell curve that every English teacher gave you in 9th grade, like a beginning, middle, and an end. But the other thing is, what are the main conflicts of fiction? Man against nature, man against themselves, man against man.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the main conflict? What shape does it take? That doesn't, and how does it work in there? And I hate to say it, but every junior high school English teacher, now middle school English teacher, was right.
So those are the big three, right?
Right.
Man versus nature, man versus himself, and man versus what was left?
Man versus man versus another man. Yeah.
So no one's married. Women aren't involved.
I was about to say, where does boy meets girl come into the story?
That's man versus nature.
I'm a little bit older than you, and I grew up in a very Texas time. We'd get on our horse and put on our 6-gun and ride to the one-room schoolhouse and hope we weren't attacked by. Well, wait.
Yeah.
My relatives were the ones doing the attacking. Never mind.
Yeah,
don't ignore it. Ignore that.
It's good to remember, though, that because I have always trying so hard to get to the end, I always kind of miss that middle part, right? That, like, how do you linger in that conflict and really make the ending worthwhile?
Oh yeah, the middle part is often the the low point, and I don't think it's the most difficult to figure out, but it is a part that often sags as compared to the other two.
Right.
Right.
It's easily that nobody puts the effort in on the middle part.
Right.
So what do
And
you
that's
what do you
the
think?
part that makes the most difference. I mean, this thing has climax. Am I going to turn it on? I turned it on and turned it off again. I'm a technological genius. This has climax at the end. To my way of thinking, climax is at the middle. This is mistaking storytelling for sex. I think the climax is the moment where things can't change anymore, where things where they have to go and move forward. And I'm sorry,
Right.
I keep making this the wrong layout.
There you go. That makes sense, right? Because it's like, so the climax is like, it's the end of the story is not when the Death Star blows up or when he hits when Luke hits the shot, but it's like what like how they then deal with there not being the Death Star.
Right. Well, I mean, the to me, the midpoint in Star Wars is when Luke, Han, and Leia realize they're stuck together and they have to work together to defeat this thing. And then the Death Star blowing up is the end, and then there's that little giving the awards thing towards the end.
But there is all that extra stuff, those beats and mills. So we're filling up those spaces in the middle that you're talking about.
Right.
Han leaves.
Yeah.
He takes the gold and leaves. We think he's gone. You're like, oh no, we thought we had this all set.
Yeah.
So you add in those wrinkles along the way.
What he wants is not what the story needs.
Yep.
Right.
And it's not even just the Death Star. Then we find out it's the ticking clock. It's coming closer. It's going to aim. It's going to get you.
Yeah.
Yep. Luke wants to leave Tatooine. Han wants to get money. Leia wants to save her homeland, wants to destroy the Empire. The others don't.
Right.
Luke, in the beginning of the story, would just as soon become an Empire pilot as a rebel. I don't think there's any real meaning to him in that. Actually, in the
I think he felt powerless, but I think he was against it because he said early on that it was like, I'd love to defeat the Empire, but I can't do anything about it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think he just felt powerless.
I just remember in the novelization him saying he wanted to go to the academy like his buddy did.
Oh yeah.
The plot that was cut out. Yeah. But Han wants money, and Leia wants to save things. Obi-Wan wants to be left the fuck alone.
Right.
And they all have to come together to make this work.
Leia's the only one who saw the big picture.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excuse me. So when you're right, like, how do you know you have a good ending? Like when you're right, so what?
I never do. I don't know till somebody else goes, "Hey, that was a great ending."
Oh yeah.
I was about to say, once you get feedback.
I guess that's actually really fair because the ending, it's about the audience, about their emotional response to it, not like your creative response to it.
Yeah, because you and the editor and everybody else involved could be like, "This is fantastic. This is perfect," and then you print the book or you put the movie out there, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden the audience doesn't get it or they react badly to it. You're like, "Oh, I guess that wasn't a good ending."
Right.
Yeah. I guess I've screwed myself yet again.
Yeah. Endings are they're so hard because they have to wrap everything up in a little bow and then make you feel something. I mean, I guess they don't have to wrap in a bow if it's a comic.
Yeah, do they have to wrap everything up? I mean, I think it's good to leave some stuff dangling and leave you wondering about some.
We were just talking about that between Blade Runner and Alien. We were trying to think of which movie was the better for Ridley Scott.
Right.
What was his actual top rate, his best film or something like that? At least at those two to begin with.
Right.
And we were talking about different things. And one of the things we were thinking about was that Blade Runner has so many extra questions to it, seemingly, because, is Harrison Ford guy also a replicant or is he not? Is this guy right here? What does it mean to be a replicant? What does it mean to be a functioning living thing, or does it not? Or all of those extra questions. Whereas Alien was pretty straightforward. We were thinking about for a minute, but then I also said, well, there's also questions in Alien. We don't know why that alien ship was there or where the alien bug came from or what, all of those things. But it was much more straightforward story within all of that.
We don't know that she's going to survive. She gets in that
absolutely
escape pod and then that's it. That's it. We know she survived this moment, but we don't know what's going to happen after this.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. But but it is like, I always came away from that feeling like, oh, okay, it's a mystery what's going to happen next for sure, but like she's safe now.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
yeah. We had nice peaceful music. She was sleeping peacefully. The cat was sleeping
You
peacefully.
could breathe again. You could be like, oh,
And thank God they rolled credits.
yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah, a lot of executives now would want to see her picked up and saved.
Yes.
Right.
Stuff like that. And there's
Right.
not, all the stuff that's revealed in Alien 2, it's hinted at, but it's certainly not laid out in the first movie. As far as you're concerned in the first movie, that was a rescue operation gone wrong.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, we talked about that recently with Jones. I don't remember if it was just on the show or not now. I don't remember what we talked about. Well, we talked about how there was the extra deluxe, whatever version of Aliens with all that extra stuff that Cameron shot that showed the city beforehand.
Right.
Maybe we talked about this last week.
Yeah, we did.
And all of that stuff of Ripley's background, that she actually had a daughter and all those things.
Yeah.
And all those things weren't necessary. You didn't need
Yeah.
to button every one of those things to tell the story that was really gripping and interesting.
So a little
You need
mystery.
the now of the story is
Yeah.
really important to me. The now, what's going on in this moment in the story has become more and more important to me over the years, as opposed to trying to explain everything.
Right.
Well, but the iceberg of knowing the story, of that, we only see this much of the story, but there's all this other stuff that's underneath the surface of it that'll make sense.
Right.
I've had those conversations with writers too, talking about they're like, well, should we figure this all out? I'm like, we can figure it out, but we don't have to tell the reader.
Right.
Right.
We need to tell them only what's pertinent for them to understand this storyline. But if we want to know exactly how the powers work or this history of the character and why it works this way, great. But they don't need to know that they played, violin in second grade.
Yeah, I used to get really mad at people who are like, how does Aquaman's powers work? How does Superman's powers work? Like, that's not the point.
Right. Right.
The point is the story. And Jeff, I'm surprised you talking about you have trouble getting into the character, because you're always like, if you point to any character on one of your pages, even a background character, you can go, yeah, this guy's doing that right now. This is what's going on.
I do like to create the world and know what's going on, but I think that's building the moment that's already there. Like, and then starting with a blank page, like which moment to draw, like that. I think is more. Like, how do I get from moment to moment is much easier when the script is already written and you already know where you're going, as opposed to like, well, I have these tent poles and I'd like to build a road between them. I always find that can be a little, I think there's too many options is what happens to me. There's too many roads that you can go down and I get lost in the weeds.
I do too in writing a story, and I'll write plenty of scenes that I wind up having to cut later.
Yeah.
Because they're just not fitting the totality of the story. Sometimes you cut something that's really great, and you hope to God you can find another place to use it.
Right. So would you say that writing is rewriting, doing that whole thing is editing and chopping down and moving stuff around?
It's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I had a story once that I was working on. It actually became a play that I had produced, which was about a summer Shakespeare festival. And what the story was, that I had done a summer in a Shakespeare festival doing Richard III, and it was about the most fun I ever had in my life. So
Cool.
I thought it was going to be a great story, and I kept trying to write it, and it didn't work. It just
There you
didn't.
go.
It just wasn't. Oh.
I know.
Story interrupted.
Yeah.
Jeff's got a dachshund.
I know. His name is
Oh.
Gizmo.
There you go. That's the
Gizmo.
wrap up ending.
Yeah. Yes.
Except now you've made
but-
the other one, man.
I know. Okay. Everyone chill. Everyone chill.
I kept trying to write it from my memory, and what finally worked was when I just thought about these characters. Okay, the characters, what's going on with the festival? The festivals always cost money. It's always hard to find money. Well, and then you have these older characters who are like, you have a bunch of college kids who do the actual Shakespeare festival, and you have these older characters who are running it. And that's what made the story work for me, was younger characters who either want to be big successes in small towns or move away, and older characters who are either big successes in a small town or wondering what the hell they're doing here. And then the whole thing worked, because I got away from what the reality of it was, but it took years to work that out, and multiple drafts.
there's a bunch of that, especially if you don't have like the play box in front of you of an Aquaman or an X-Men comic or something like that, where you kind of know the parameters that you're going to be dealing with to
Right.
begin with. But if you're given something a little more open-ended or new to you in any way that you may not have played in that sandbox before, sometimes it can take a while to actually find the rhythm that not only works for telling the story that's needed, but also works for you as a creative person going like, oh wait, I can tell this part of the story. This works for me and does all that stuff. And it's not necessarily a forced story that you might have a really hard time, connecting with and making it connect to the reader.
Right.
Do you think that the ending should always kind of like connect to whatever your central theme is? Does it need to be answering that question, even sort
Yeah.
of metaphorically?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know a lot of science fiction fans hate it, but I loved the ending of Begonia because it just,
I
it
haven't
was
seen
just
that yet.
so,
That's on.
oh,
That's on. It's a movie, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I haven't
it,
seen it.
it's well worth it. It's well
Oh,
worth
is
it.
it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought a lot of science fiction fans hate it because the end gets a little silly visually, but
Oh, okay.
I just fell in love with it.
Okay. Cool.
So
Well,
if
I'll
you
have
haven't
to check
seen it,
that out.
I don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No spoilers.
Yeah.
Did you draw?
Oh, so while we were chatting away,
Oh,
another
Morbius,
monster.
living vampire.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's gorgeous.
Such a great character. Listen, Reed,
I'll finish it up.
I love drawing that guy. I've drawn that guy.
I haven't drawn him that much. I've only drawn him like once or twice. That was fun.
He's one of my faves.
Are there? Is he in books now, or did the movie sink his books as well?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I played. I don't know if you do much role play anymore, but like, there's a Marvel game, the new Marvel 616 game, and I played him, and he's so much fun. he's such a crazy
He's like a
character.
little badass.
He's just such a tough character. He's so much fun to play.
There's role playing. You just reminded me. There is an improv group in town. The next door neighbor runs it, and so we went to be polite, and it actually wound up being great. It's improv. It's D&D improv.
What?
They have a dungeon master, and they roll for characters, and then they roll for incidents. And the woman who's the dungeon master does a great job of building a story and letting it down in like 45 minutes.
Wow,
But
that's a
they're
crazy
doing it
skill.
they're doing it there while you're there, rolling it, and it comes from there. And it was, and I hate everything, and it was tremendously fun.
The good times that I've played any of those role-playing games, whether it's even superheroes or D&D or whatnot,
Right.
with the right group of friends and whatever else you had going on, so you'd had to like your right group for improv. When those work out, those couple games and whatnot that have worked out so well, where it really was like touch and go, what was going to go on, it really depended on this role, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's edge of your seat stuff, which is kind of what people hope for in some ways from the fiction writing and whatnot that we do, looking for this interesting twist of an ending or different stuff like that. You want that feeling like it's almost up to the roll to die, like it could go any way.
What was
Right.
that phrase you said earlier? An ending should feel inevitable, but
Be surprised. It's either surprising but inevitable, or inevitable but surprising.
okay.
It
Inevitable
needs
but
to make
surprising.
sense at the moment, at the end, and you still need to want to be kind of surprised by what happens.
Right.
Which is why it's hard to surprise people nowadays that we're surrounded by so much entertainment these days. I think that's why so many people have turned to, so-called reality TV or back to game shows, or always with sports on stuff, except for when you think that the sports are a little bit stacked.
Yeah.
Is they want that, big question mark in it, is, the risk involved of, is it A or is it B? Is it going to work out or is it not going to work out? Is this team going to win, kind of a thing? That's always a fun thing about probability that always interests everybody when they pay attention to any of this stuff.
And that's when I go back and especially look at old television that I liked when I was a kid. It's just too pat to me, and nothing develops in any of the characters. Nothing changes. The status quo is maintained all the time.
Right.
And in a way, Silver Age comics were like that too, until
Yep.
Marvel sort of broke the mold. And there were,
Right.
I mean, there was some stuff in the Golden Age, like the Heap and the Airboy changes and stuff like that. But
Yeah, they had their startling moments of the time. Their kind of versions of a new X-Men coming through or a Phoenix dying or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it was a big deal at the beginning, wasn't it? That Human Torch and Submariner had that giant war, and then they even brought it in. I forget if Captain America, I think, got involved too. All of their big books wound up getting involved in this whole
Yeah.
Titanic thing going on,
Mhm.
and that was new for the time. Or there was the giant arc of the Monster Men, Society of Monster Men, and Captain Marvel. Went
Oh,
on for like 12 issues.
Monster Society of Evil,
There
led
it
by
is.
Mr. Mind, the
Classic.
world's wickedest worm.
And the whole thing was that they didn't know who Mr. Mind was. Mr. Mind kept
Mhm.
telling everybody what to do or not do, all these things, all these machinations behind the thing. And then it was the giant reveal after like 12 issues.
That he was a worm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a worm.
Yeah. But that stuff was, I like change. I like stuff that moves. And that's why I wonder, like, maybe we should let a character rest once in a while so it comes back and it's new.
Totally.
The X-Men was a great example of taking the classic team, building on it and building on who they were. There was a book that I probably wouldn't look at it now in the same way, but for the time and that period and that genre, that was pretty sophisticated character work in that.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, I remember reading the X-Men when I was a kid and just having the sense of almost an operatic quality to it. Like this
Yeah.
is overwhelming.
Wait, are you talking about Claremont's X-Men? Are you talking about Claremont's X-Men too? Or are you talking about
Yeah.
Stan Lee and
Yeah.
Roy Thomas?
No, so I was buying the reprint book when
Right.
Giant Size came out, and so
Hmm.
I already dug the original X-Men. I thought they were cool and the Outcast thing, and then I got Giant Size 1 off the stands and was like,
Wow.
yeah, this is literature.
Yeah. This is big.
A whole
Yeah.
new world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Excuse me.
but X-Men was a great one of the story never ends. The story just goes from story to story, and they just flowed one into another.
Right. Yeah, they would finish an epic adventure or a drama, and then you'd have a beat. I thought they were always, even though I hated drawing it, they were always really good about giving you an issue to rest and catch your breath
Right.
and see what the new status
Pages.
Yeah. Listen, there's so many issues, you can afford one.
Well, like the ending of that Krakatoa, the ending of that Giant Size one, there were a couple pages, whatever, 5 pages maybe at the end was like, okay, we defeated the giant monster. The people that are going to survive have survived, and we get them home and we're safe. And then it was the question of what the new team was going to be, or
Right.
Right.
what was going to happen to the old team if they left and went away, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it was the surprising thing was that some people didn't want to be a member. Like, nope,
Right.
I don't want to play with your little group. I'm going back to Japan. See ya.
Right.
Yep, Sunfire left. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
he's a great character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, though all those characters were unique, and I think for a long time you had so many cookie cutter characters. You're like, oh, this is just a pale shadow of this guy, or a version of that guy, and like everyone seems so unique and special in the X-Men. Like I mean, honestly, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, like such a great crew.
Yeah.
But there was also that feature, just like in the early FFs, where either the Thing would quit and leave, or the Torch would quit and leave. But with those early X-Men's, Thunderbird died. Originally, apparently, before Byrne came on board, they were going to write Wolverine out of the book. Sunfire had left as of the end of Giant Size #1, so it really seemed like it was a very malleable group, similar to what they were doing around in Avengers at the time.
Right.
Half the members of the Avengers were always coming and going; they were never sitting still.
There was a great Avengers arc that's I think Stern and Byrne did, where every time the Avengers got their ass in a sling, Thor would show up and save them. There's that great Count Nefaria scene with
Oh, yeah.
Byrne came in for that issue. I think that was a lot of shooter stuff, actually.
And by the way, Count Nefaria is like, once they named their kid Nefaria, like his future was locked.
It
But-
is a name with a destiny, that's for sure.
Yeah, like Sinestro, Guardians of
I
the
was about to say,
Universe. You couldn't figure that one out, could you?
It's like, are you sure you want to name him Sinestro?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I was going to go with Claude, but whatever.
Yeah.
A nihilist
his
sounds
pla-
like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. On his planet, Sinestro means deli clerk.
Right.
Means nice mustache.
Yeah.
Now I forgot where I was going. Oh, nope, lost it again. Sorry.
Count Nefaria.
The whole thing was Thor, where they finally sit down and go, you can't just keep showing up and saving us. You're either a member or you're not.
Right.
You know,
That's not
so
an
you're gonna-
ultimatum I would make to someone who kept saving my ass.
and to a god, I would
Right.
sort of think twice about that. You know,
Yeah.
but they did that, and that's actually like, you know, a decent characterization that we think we can tell the God of Thunder what he should and shouldn't do,
Right.
and he'll sit and listen to us. He'll sit and take it.
I know. Well, yeah, rough. If you had daddy issues, that's for sure.
There's that line from the Avengers movie. These guys are basically gods. There's only one
Yeah.
God, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That is a good line. I just watched that recently. Well,
How we doing?
I think
Well,
we're good. Do we
yeah.
figure out endings?
I think so. You guys think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, I do think so.
Did we end this?
I mean, no. Yeah, we're gonna. I think
I don't
Did
know.
we
I
end
don't
this
know how to-
discussion?
so. Jones still hasn't heard your Miyazaki story, so we'll save that
Oh,
until Jones comes back.
All right. We can't. So next week you're in Detroit.
Next week I'm in Detroit,
Right.
and so I won't be around.
I'm-
And you're doing a thing.
I'm in Buffalo. So we're gonna skip next week, maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna skip next week, and then
Okay.
a week after that we'll be back, and then we'll figure out something fun to talk about. Maybe probably if
maybe designing or organizing characters.
oh, that sounds like fun.
Wouldn't that be fun?
There you go, designing and organizing.
Sounds good.
Right in. Yeah.
Right on. All right, everybody.
All right. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Sean. Thank you, Scott.
See you in 2
let me do-
weeks.
Let me do this, and
Yes,
then we can sign out.
Oh, that's not the.
This is not the thing. Here we go. Is it this one? How about this?
Jane, get me off this crazy.
None of it's working. All right. All right, everybody. There we go.
There we
God's
go.
sakes. Son of a beeswax.